Bellossom's design is Bellossom. Haha, do you get it? Bellossom sounds like Bellossom. P comedy. Unfortunately, Bellossom is far from awesome in GSC Unused. As a matter of fact, it is almost entirely fallen out of the metagame. Bellossom used to be pretty good and common in GSC Unused, but nowadays, it's lucky to get more than one use in a tournament. Almost nobody likes Bellossom in GSC Underused, and it has been the butt of many jokes for quite some time now. Other former GSC Underused staples, like Slowbro and Slowking, have also fallen off in usage over the years, but none of their falls have been as bad as Bellossom's has been. How did we get to this point? I mentioned earlier that Bellossom used to be pretty solid, so what happened to it? To know why, we need to analyse Bellossom as a Pokemon, so let's do just that. Bellossom's well-rounded stats, good typing, and solid move pool make it a solid defensive Pokemon in the tier. Both of Bellossom's defensive stats are solid, especially its special defense, and its typing gives it resistances to common attacking types, such as water, electric, and ground. Bellossom is an ample check to a number of common Pokemon, like Nidoqueen, Quagsire, Lantern, and Slowbro. Countering Lantern and Quagsire is very notable due to how limited both Pokemon are in counterplay. Bellossom is one of the few Pokemon in the tier who can call itself a mixed ball, since its defenses are balanced and it has the tools to handle Pokemon on both sides. Bellossom doesn't have to use Rest Talk for recovery, since it learns Moonlight, which frees up its movesets and provides instant recovery. Bellossom's move pool can make it a rather annoying Pokemon to switch into. Bellossom makes great use of Stun Spore, using it to cripple restless offensive Pokemon like Scyther, Qwilfish, and Gyarados. Stun Spore is immensely useful support for many slower offensive Pokemon, such as Granbull and Sandslash. Unlike Thunderwave, Stun Spore can actually paralyze ground types like Piloswine, Nidoqueen, and Quagsire. Bellossom's Stab Grass attacks are able to threaten the numerous water and ground type Pokemon in the tier, and a lot of them are Rest Talk users who would be used to absorb Stun Spore. Razor Leaf is Bellossom's preferred stab attack, due to its higher crit rate, which can allow Bellossom to break through Pokemon like Granbull with some good luck. Hidden Power Grass is more powerful and accurate than Razor Leaf, but it decreases your DVs and it lacks the crit chance of Razor Leaf. Don't use Giga Drain, by the way, it is weak and it has almost no PP. After Razor Leaf, Stun Spore and Moonlight, Bellossom usually opts for Sleep Powder, because there really aren't many better options, and sleep can be very overpowered in GSC anyway. Sleep Powder Bellossom can cripple eager Qwilfish that try to set up spikes on it, and sleeping Pokemon on the opposing team can provide free entry for your setup sweepers, like Scyther. Leech Seed used to be a popular option, but it has fallen out of favour due to being illegal with Razor Leaf. Bellossom actually can be an annoying Pokemon to deal with for some teams. Lantern Pilot teams in particular dislike Bellossom, since they are very poor at switching into grass attacks, and Bellossom has numerous turns to switch in against them. Semi-stall teams that use Belly Drum Quagsire as their main offense also dislike Bellossom, because Bellossom dominates Quagsire. While Bell can't do much to these teams, since they usually have multiple Rest Talk users that don't care about it, it shuts down their main offensive weapon. Bellossom can also use a Sword Stance set, but I would not bother with it. Bellossom takes multiple boosts to become actually threatening, and Pokemon like Granbull, Qwilfish, Piloswine, Haunter, Scyther, and Magneton all have an easy time beating it. In conclusion to this section, Bellossom is a decent mixed wall that can support with paralysis and sleep. It is not hard to see why players gravitated towards it for so long, which brings us into the actual rise and fall. Bellossom was a popular choice in GSC Underused from the very beginning of the tier's history, but it really came into its own when Slowbro and Slowking dropped to GSC Underused. Slowbro was an incredibly dominant Pokemon, and Bellossom was one of the few Pokemon who could switch in and threaten it. This was also when Nidoqueen really established itself as the tier's dominant Pokemon, and Bellossom had a decent matchup against her too. Bellossom was one of the very few Pokemon who could check both Slowbro and Nidoqueen, the two most dominant Pokemon, in one slot. The tier used to be much friendlier to Bellossom overall. Mr. Mime and Hypno didn't use Rest Talk nearly as much. There are more water types who Bellossom could switch into. Nidoqueen was the ground type instead of Piloswine, and full defensive teams weren't nearly as prominent. People also hadn't realised there were better options than Bellossom yet, but I'll save that part for later. Bellossom was an incredibly popular, splashable, and consistent Pokemon for years. In the late 2010s though, its usage started to dip a small bit. This is because Bellossom started to face competition from Jumpluff and Hypno. Jumpluff was another stun spore spamming grass type, but it was much faster, spikes immune, and packed Encore, while Hypno gave a competition as a wall. It wasn't a huge drop in usage, but it was certainly noticeable. That small drop in usage was nothing, though, when compared to 2021, which is when Bellossom truly fell off the face of the earth. The primary reason for this is simple. Bellossom is just not good at dealing damage. Its special attack set is nothing special, Grass is a poor attacking type that is widely resisted, and its stab moves are all low to mediocre base power. Barring water and ground types, Bellossom is poor at threatening everything else, and this can lead to it becoming set-up opportunity. This is made worse by the fact that every team has a Rest Talk user who doesn't care about Bellossom, like Hypno, Mr. Mime, or Granbull. Bellossom is a passive blob who rarely contributes anything to games. Its typing gives it weaknesses to Poison and Flying, which is far from ideal when Quillfish, Scyther, and Gyarados are all very common Pokemon. Since Bellossom doesn't use Rest, it also despises status, particularly Sleep and Paralysis. Bellossom has to run away from all the Paralysis spreaders in the tour, and it is vulnerable to getting slept by Pokemon it normally checks, like Nidoqueen and Haunter. The prominence of Thunder as an attacking move also hurts Bellossom due to its 30% Paralysis rate. Bellossom's poor speed also means it is outsped by numerous top Pokemon, which makes it difficult for Bellossom to switch in and recover its health if it's low. It is just very easy to bully Bellossom with Pokemon like Granbull, Rest Talk Hypno, Scyther, and Quillfish due to its passivity and poor speed. It is very hard to justify Bellossom when better special walls like Lantern and Hypno exist, who check similar things to Bellossom, but are more offensively potent and not weak to certain things Bellossom is. Jumpluff still gives a huge competition as a grass type too, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. Really, the only reason to use Bellossom is when you need a Lantern counter, because otherwise, Hypno, Lantern, and Jumpluff can do what it does better. As a result of this, Bellossom just sucks ass. People thought Sword Stance could be decent for a time, but everyone quickly realised that that set is absolutely terrible and even more ass than the standard defensive set. Bellossom has almost entirely disappeared from Tour Play, and nobody likes it anymore. While I would still tier Bellossom as underused, and likes Pokemon like Politoed who should really be dropped to NU by this point, I don't see myself using it anytime soon.